Hi, and welcome to the first video for Lesson 3 on Writing and Language, Part 3. So this is an overview of the lesson, a walkthrough of the note, and it should be fairly quick and straightforward. So the only thing I want to note about this header, most of the things are the same, but one thing that changed since last time is that I've added textbook exercises and solutions to the drive. So I realized last week in decal that you all don't have textbooks, so you need access to the questions somehow. So you can look in the drive, go back here to verbal, go to the practice exams folder, and you'll see folders for reading and writing and language, the two modules where we'll use a lot of exercises from the book. And so in writing and language, you can see the tests and the solutions. The tests just contain questions, and the solutions contain not only the correct choices, but also the SAT's official explanations of why answers are correct. So I recommend consulting these before you teach class for writing and language and later for reading when we get to that. One note that's important is that page numbers in the PDFs don't match the page numbers in the textbooks. So to account for that, whenever I tell you to assign something from the book, I'll list the page number and questions for students, and then I'll list the test number for you. So this is just for your reference, so you know that, for example, the group work activity for this week takes these questions from test number 2 of writing and language, and you can just go find it and look at the questions and verify the answers. Alright, so that is that. That's all that's changed here. Now a walkthrough of the lesson plan. First thing you're going to do is debrief homework. I've allocated a bit more time for it this week. The homework was longer last week than the previous week. I think it'll take longer for you to debrief it. And this is the exact same as what I wrote last week. You should definitely give students the solutions. And I recommend asking students to identify questions they struggled with and going over those, but how you choose to go over the answers is ultimately up to you. And then we have here a grammar game. I don't know how last week's grammar game went in your classes. As I said, it's been successful for me in the past. But we have a totally different grammar game this week, one that has been tried in the past by PTPS teachers and I've gotten very positive feedback about. It uses Kahoot, and Kahoot's a little complicated, and I want to also walk through the questions because some of them are tricky. So I have a separate video about this game, so we'll skip it for now. Then we have the slide deck, and of course I have a separate video for that, so we'll skip it. And then after you've done all of that, you come to a group work activity. So this is not a game, it's just an activity. You can modify it however you want, that's why it's in blue. And the way I would do it is divide the class into some small groups, tell them to work on the following questions from their textbooks. They're not a lot, just 8 problems, and they're based on the slides you just presented. And for each problem, students should, just as before, write down their answers as well as justifications for why they believe these answers are correct. And after the groups have finished or made substantial progress, come back together and debrief the answers. Very simple, straightforward group work. Yeah. Then, of course, at the end, we have an exit slip with a link for this week and an associated spreadsheet. And then the homework, which is listed here and in a separate homework doc that you can share with students afterwards. This homework looks very long. It's not that long. It looks long because it's the 2 different books, and then also it has a lot of optional problems. I would encourage students to do the optional problems. They're really helpful. Some of the material we're going to be covering this week is quite tricky, and it helps to get practice. But obviously their time is limited, so the only required portion of the assignment is this. And then, of course, for each question, we want them to justify their answers. And something new this week is part 2 of the homework is we want them to prepare for a quick quiz that's going to be given at the beginning of next week's class. And of course, they shouldn't stress, there's no grades. This is just a check-in. It's going to be similar to the exit slips they've been seeing, but longer and closed note and longer and closed note and cumulative over lessons 1 to 3. So we'll do these quizzes at the end of each module. We are finishing the last module this week, so we'll have a quiz. And then as usual, stuff to do after your class, email homework, etc. One thing I'll just say quickly is that even though this lesson is Writing in Language Part 3, we're continuing, this lesson is not about grammar. And I'll go over that a lot more in the video about the slides, but the Writing in Language section of the test is about 50% on grammar and 50% on things like structure and tone and style and general writing conventions. You may remember that we went over this in lesson 1 in those intro to writing section slides. I had like sort of a tree and I said lessons 1 and 2 are going to focus on grammar and lesson 3 will focus on all that other stuff. So this is the lesson where we focus on the other stuff. We start with reviewing grammar with this grammar game because it's important to review and students have been fed a lot of grammar in the last 2 weeks. But the bulk of this lesson, the slides and group work and exit slip, are not about grammar. They're about other things, and I encourage you to look at the slides or watch the videos to learn more about exactly what that is. Alright, that's it for this video.